What's up, everyone? Today I am here with a special guest. His name is Zacch Rimbos, and he also has his own podcast with Part Shaw, Chris, and Jalen, and they also talk about the Bears. And ironically, me and Zacch went to the same high school, and we're also Bears fans, hence why we're doing this podcast. But without further ado, Zacch, first of all, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Avith. How are you?
I'm doing really good myself. So before we dive into training camp, kind of give my audience here a little bit on how you became a Chicago Bears fan.
Yeah, I've been a Bears fan since I could remember. I remember watching the Super Bowl very briefly when I was a little kid, 5, 6 years old. So I've been a Bears fan since then. I lived in Colorado for 15 years, but I've always been a Bears fan. My family's from here. So yeah, just follow it with me. So.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I became a Bears fan because of Central and all those guys that I was friends with were all on the football team. So that kind of led me into becoming a Bears fan and eventually starting my YouTube channel. But let me know, how did you and we're having Chris on here soon. So tell me, how did you and your guys kind of start your whole Bears podcast, and what do you guys kind of do on that podcast?
Yeah, so we started our podcast Bear Down in March of 2020. I joined as a video producer, so I started out making the podcast templates, putting together highlights and other videos for them. That's always been kind of my gig is stuff like that. I've always, taken a lot of time and done things like that for a while, the editing side of it. But yeah, we started in March of 2020, the pandemic hit. We did stuff on the NFL draft that year, and I just kind of followed along with it. It's a group of college students. We got like 15 or so people behind scenes. But yeah, we do articles, blogs. We have our own website. So yeah, that's been running since March of 2020, and it's been going very well. We've been very busy. We all have, jobs on the side, so we're trying to figure out how to manage that, but it's been going very well, so.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So, let's just dive right into our main topic, and that's training camp. And let's hold up on Justin Fields a little bit because I want people to wait for that. So, other than Justin Fields, I guess let's start off with cornerback position, that number 1, number 2 cornerback position. What did you see from Kindle Vildor, Jalen Johnson, and the new lines cornerback that we got?
Yeah, so Trufant looked pretty sharp. He was tracking the ball pretty well. Kindle Vildor, he looked pretty good. They didn't get too much snap share, target share on their side. But Jalen Johnson looked pretty good. Darnell Mooney kind of broke his ankles in the middle of training camp, so that's something that maybe if you want to talk about later on the offensive side, we can talk about it. But he didn't look too bad either. They didn't do too much 11 on 11, I feel like, in terms of forcing the ball down the field, like deep shots. So we couldn't really showcase too much of that, I don't think. But they look good in their drills. Jalen thankfully is okay. He looked like he got injured a little bit earlier on in training camp. Which was definitely a concern, obviously, because he's that number 1 guy now. But yeah, he's doing good. They looked good in drills, and that's all you can, be thankful about. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So did you see, in terms of reps, who were most of the reps going towards? I saw on Twitter from you and DVC Reshab that Vildor was getting some first team reps, but who were those reps more geared toward? Like, who got most of them? Was it Trufant or Vildor?
I would say Trufant. I think I saw a little bit more on the field in terms of, like I said, they didn't run 11 on 11s for too long. 7 on 7s, not really either. But mainly in their drills. Obviously everybody was getting a fair share for the defensive backs, but I didn't see. I saw Trufant out there definitely a little bit more than Vildor was out there. But we'll have to see how that role increases as camp goes on and see what we hear from Trufant and Vildor in their respective positions. So.
Now, this is a bit of a hard question based on you only went to one practice and it was only maybe like 2 hours. But from what you saw and from what you even saw last season from Vildor, I think a lot of fans, including myself, are worried about like who's going to be that number 2 corner, and can Vildor be that guy? From what you've seen, can Vildor be that guy?
From what I've heard as well is that he works very hard. It sounds like he's very professional and shows up. Heard from Nagy that he shows up to practice and he does everything right and asks for everything that Nagy asked from him, as well as Sean Desai, the defensive coordinator now. So, he shows up. He's a true professional. And I really like from what I saw from him in 2020. He obviously didn't get too much playing time, but he was a rookie. So, I think this year his role will definitely increase, given that Trufant also was dealing with some injuries last season as well during the regular season. So we're gonna have to see how that plays out. But Vildor looked really great. I did like to see him last year. He made some big tackles for us. Looked great out there. So hopefully we get to see more of him in 2021.
Yeah. So what I've seen from Vildor, I mean, I have never been to practices, and I'm not really that good at analyzing tape. But from what I've seen from the stats percentage is that Vildor, he kind of did struggle in terms of coverages, and that can be expected. I mean, we'll talk about this later on, those rookie struggles, and we'll talk about that with Justin. But that's to be expected. I think that one of the most interesting stats that I found was that Vildor, in open field tackling, he was one of the best tacklers on our team. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't miss any. He had 0 missed tackles. So that's something that I liked a lot. There was like I think they call it open field tackles. He was really good at. So that's something that's really interesting. And I guess from both of us, I think, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I guess based on that 70% coverage allowed, I wanted to see Vildor improve upon that a little bit. And I think he can be that guy, I think Vildor needs just another more year in this system. And with the guys that he's working with Sean Desai, who works with safeties and who works with that secondary, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, I think, he just needs to play a little bit more. Obviously, you see what you see from training camp, but it doesn't translate to the field all that. So, hopefully he sees a bigger role this season. I'd like to see him increase, and definitely because Desmond Trufant's definitely getting up there in age, and he has had injury concerns, definitely last season. I think something with his hamstring. So that's something to monitor. If he's hurt, then Vildor will have to step up into that role, and he's definitely a guy that I'm high on. I hope that, if he does play next season or this upcoming season a lot, then it'd be great for us. It'd be good to see him out there.
Yeah, perfect. So now that what did you see from Jalen Johnson? Did you, of course, Jalen Johnson was a stud, and then he got a little bit injured, but that's okay. It seems like he's healthy, other than that one injury scare that we had. And it seems like based on from you, what have you talked about me so far? It seems like Jalen Johnson was a stud, other than getting beat by Mooney. But I mean, Mooney is really fast. So what did you see from Jalen Johnson?
Yeah, in terms of his drills, he's very good at pass breakups. So when the ball is coming his way, he's really good at getting his hands in between the receiver when they're trying to extend their hands out. He's good at aiding in between and breaks up the play. So that's something that, obviously we knew that from him last season. If you saw a lot of, his games, he was really good at that. I think he either led rookies or he was definitely one of the leaders in pass and breakups last season. I think he had like 14 or something. But that's his specialty. So I saw a lot of that in the drills. Didn't see too much because, like I said, he was probably targeted 2-3 times, I would say. But there's a lot more I could talk about on the offensive side of the ball, I think, because, like I said, they weren't doing big deep shots. So there was a couple of like dump offs and things like that to look for, and who looked good in those. So yeah, but Jalen doesn't look that bad. I'm hoping that, he can step into that role, because it's a very large gap that you have to fill with Kyle Fuller leaving. So
yeah, perfect. So in terms of the slot corner, from what I've seen, it seems like Duke Shelley and the Thomas Graham are battling it out for that slot corner position that's really I would say a need for us. I think we did have a slot corner last year, and he was okay. He's not coming to mind right now, but he was okay. So what did you see from those two cornerbacks, and who do you think is kind of edging it out as of right now?
Yeah, I saw a lot more of Thomas Graham today than I did of Duke Shelley. Duke Shelley's been with the team for a couple of years now. But I don't think Thomas Graham, I liked him from the day that we drafted him. I think it's either late 6th or early 7th round pick. And he was awesome. I liked, I watched a couple of highlights, which obviously isn't always telling him a player, but heard a lot about him at Oregon. And he sounded like it, he's a really fast guy, which could be huge for the slot because that's a very important, you got to be really fast for that position, be able to break across the field. But, that's something to monitor. I think he can take over that role there in terms of being that slot corner. But yeah, I'd love to see him a lot more this season. That'd be cool. Or get to see a lot of him this season.
Yeah, perfect. So I just want to briefly talk about the safeties. I know Eddie Jackson did not play or was limited. So what did you see from the safeties? What did you see from Eddie Jackson? What did you see from Tayshawn on the safety side of the ball?
Yeah, so Deshaun Gibson, obviously it wasn't contact, so they were kind of just covering over the middle of the field, stopping any deep shots. Deshaun looked pretty good. I believe I saw a little bit of Deion Bush. Obviously, Eddie Jackson did not practice today. But they didn't look too bad. They looked sharp. They're covering the ball well, getting deep and tracking it down pretty well. They were just doing running drills pretty much. They didn't get too much of the 11-on-11 in terms of like being on players. So, but they look good. It was exciting to see them too. I like Deshaun. Hopefully he can be good with Eddie alongside, this season with Sean Desai and his defensive schemes. Hopefully Eddie has an increased role in this scheme. That'd be huge.
Yeah, so I guess let's talk about another thing that a lot of Bears fans are talking about, and that's Robert Quinn. And from what I understand, Robert Quinn was limited, but what really stuck out to me reading your tweets and seeing Bears Twitter, other people who did go there, was that, although Robert Quinn did have some back issues and it said that he was limited, it seemed like he was a pretty disruptive force, It seems like the line kind of collapsed a little bit, and then Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack got Andy Dalton. What did you kind of see from Robert Quinn, even though he was limited?
Yeah, it was good to see. He looked very good in the drills. He's got like he's perfect in drills. He looked awesome. And then when it got to 11-on-11s, he and Mack were in there a lot, like really close to the quarterback, almost every time it felt like. But there was one play in specific. I remember Robert Quinn broke through, like within a second after the snap had been, after the Dalton snapped, and he kind of slowed up because he didn't want to hit Dalton, and then Dalton threw it away to the corner and hit Ridley. But they were getting in there a lot today, which is a really good sign. Robert Quinn, obviously, he's got to have kind of a bounce back year. He knows that he didn't have a great year in 2020. He had, I think, 11.5 sacks with Dallas and a couple years back, and hopefully he can return to that form because it would be huge for Mack, and that defense would be rolling. So, hopefully he's feeling a lot better this season. He looked good in practice, so hopefully he's feeling that way. And we'll have to monitor that, but he looked great. So. Yeah,
perfect. And of course, I probably am guessing Khalil Mack was insane, but what did you see from Khalil Mack? He did say that he has to improve upon. He wants to make himself a better player, which, if you just ask me, is absolutely scary. Coming from a guy like Khalil Mack, who's one of the best rushers in the NFL and one of the top players in the NFL. So what did you kind of see from Khalil Mack? And did you see him kind of getting a little bit faster? What did you see from him?
Yeah, no, he looked good. I'm not sure about faster, but he definitely looked like himself. I think over the past couple of seasons, he's been dealing with something as well. And I can't remember where it is, but I believe it was a lower body injury, which is huge. When you're rushing, pass rushing, you're using your legs so much as well as your arms, your upper body. So As long as he's back to his full form. He looked great though. He was getting past, the linemen in drills. He was powering through. He did look fast. So hopefully he's feeling a lot better as well. But yeah, I think that tandem, those two there, Robert Quinn and Mack, can have a really great year. Hopefully we see that, because that'll increase the turnovers, and hopefully we'll see something close to that 2018 season again. So.
Yeah, perfect. And then what did you see from the line? And like, I'm talking about from the line of like Dalton Nichols, who really, actually, while I'm at it, like who really started for Akeem Hicks? Because I'm not getting a little bit concerned, but it's a little bit concerning when you have a guy like Akeem Hicks not practicing at all. So who kind of took over for his snaps? Was it Toga? Who was that guy who kind of filled in?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I saw Mario Edwards, but yeah, no, definitely that is a concern with Akeem. It is a little weird. We haven't heard too much news on that besides that he didn't report today, and they haven't given us any word for the coaches, that is, or Ryan Pace. So hopefully everything's good. Hopefully it's just something, non-football related, and he's taking a little bit of time and he'll be back. If it is football related, that sucks, and we'll have to hear about it soon here, hopefully. But no, yeah. So I think I saw Mario Edwards in there. I'm not sure I saw much of Eddie Goldman. I'm not sure if he was there. I'm trying to remember now. Nichols was definitely there. But yeah, those guys kind of were like the main ones that stepped in there. I'm trying to remember. I saw so many numbers, and I was kind of paying attention to different sides of the field. But yeah, they look great as well. I'm really high on Bilal Nichols. He was great last season. And I think that defensive line can be really, really scary. Hopefully we have Akeem back, because I don't know what's happening with that. But that interior defensive line looks great. So.
Yeah, perfect. And then while I'm at it, I know you talked about how you didn't really see that much from Eddie Goldman, but just that fresh place, like just seeing Eddie Goldman back from a year, and I'm sure you probably watched. I watched it, at least his press conference, and where he looked, his arms, like that man has been lifting. But from what I'm seeing from Eddie Goldman, it just seems like he is back to the Eddie Goldman that we know and love, if I'm not mistaken. And based on that, did you see that from Eddie Goldman?
Yeah, no, he's an awesome guy. He's very quiet. He's not like one of those guys that's all over social media. You don't hear much of him. You don't see much of him, on social media, whatever it may be. But he's definitely been putting the work in. When he came back, he said that he really obviously did not like having or opting out of the 2020 season with COVID. So, hopefully he's back in full force again, because he's definitely one of the most underrated, linemen out there, defensive linemen. Nose tackle, he's a beast. So hopefully, we see a lot more from him this season, because we definitely missed him last season. The run game was sort of a problem against us for a majority of that season. So it's going to be great having him back.
Yeah, perfect. And then my last question about the defense, and it's about the man who leads the defense, Sean Desai. From what I've heard, actually, I don't know if it was you or DBC, but someone said that Sean Desai had a loud voice. And what you've seen from Sean Desai, the way he runs things and the way that defense is kind of playing, is it more geared towards like how Vic Fangio was, or from how Chuck Pagano was, or a mixture of both?
Yeah, Mack said that he sees a lot of Fangio in Sean Desai, which is good. But yeah, that's the first thing I noticed as well, because obviously I haven't been able to really see him take over that role in practice before. So today, the first thing I noticed was, he was out there next to Mack and next to Quinn and those guys, helping them out, telling them what to do, and he was very vocal. Which is good. He's a very smart guy. He knows a lot about the game of football. He's learned a lot from Fangio. And I think, he's young and he's talented in his own assets, which is, he knows a lot about how to coach the defense. So, but yeah, he was good to see out there, especially like being vocal the way he was. You can definitely tell that he's a leader. So that's a good thing for us. And hopefully, I think there's a little bit of lack on the defense with, Pagano the last couple of seasons. So hopefully we see a turnaround here and something great again like 2018, as I mentioned before.
Yeah, perfect. And now let's kind of gear towards that offense. And let's start off with the tight ends. Cole Kmet, Jimmy Graham, Jesse James. What did you kind of see from those tight ends that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, Jesse James impressed me today. He's always been solid. He was with the Steelers and the Lions. He's a great blocking back. But I think we could see a lot of him in this offense. Last season we saw Demetrius Harris, and he was not very fit in that offense. He, was dropping balls a lot. Just didn't seem to be fit with that offensive scheme. So Jesse James looks like he's going to be good for us, whether that's blocking or in the passing game. I saw JP Holtz out there as well today. The only pass I saw was from Fields, and it was kind of a high ball. And Holtz kind of had to jump up for it, didn't catch it, but I saw him today. Kmet looks good. Graham looked good. He was, powerful and running fast. So, but I'm excited to see what Kmet can do here in year 2. This is going to be a huge year for him, especially, he's got a lot to prove to people who think that maybe have not been the best pick for us there in the second round in 2020. So yeah, we're going to have to see how that goes, but he looked great today, so.
Yeah, and perfect. So that, I got a little bit of Cole Kmet's press conference, and it really seemed like that tight end university. He's kind of it really seems that Cole Kmet, maybe not from some fans who are hating on this pick, but from the top tight ends, from top tight ends that we have in the NFL, George Kittle, Owen Daniels, they're really seeing like, wow, this kid is good, because otherwise I don't think Cole Kmet would have been invited to tight end university. And Jimmy Graham has spoke fondly of Cole Kmet. So hopefully Cole Kmet can break out. And I think he definitely will. I think the Chicago kid definitely will break out this year. And, from what I've seen, I guess, I want to ask you this too. He talked about Travis Kelce, and Matt Nagy talked about Kelce and how him and Cole Kmet were watching his tape. And I know it's hard. It's just one practice. It's just a couple of plays. But did you see any sort of resemblance between Cole Kmet and someone like Travis Kelce?
Yeah, Kelce is definitely, I mean, this is arguable for a lot of people, but he's definitely, to me, the best in the league. Kelce is just so dominant in the passing game. And he's also so big and dominant. But Kmet is awesome, man. I think, one of his skills is being able to put his head down and run through people. We saw a lot of that, like in the Texans game last year in 2020. He put his head down and fought for a first down or close to it. That's something that he has in him, and that's just something that you can't really teach people. It's just all that grit and hard work, and he puts his head down and goes through there and just tries to fight for extra yards. So that's what you want in a tight end. Hopefully and Matt Nagy did say his role will increase this year. So hopefully we see a lot more of him, because I really do love him and I want him to work out here. We had Trey Burton, we had Adam Shaheen, and Shaheen did not work out. Trey Burton I didn't really like either. But I really want Cole Kmet to be a household name here with the Bears. I want him to be, one of the greats here. So hopefully we see a lot more from him in the future here, and he's awesome. So let's see.
Yeah, perfect. And let's just dive into the receivers. What did you see from the receivers? From my understanding, Allen Robinson was not only the best receiver who played today, but also one of the best players who played today during training camp. So what did you kind of see from the receivers? What did you see from Allen Robinson? What did you see from Darnell Mooney, from Demarius Byrd, and from Marquise Goodwin?
Yeah, Robinson, I think, was the best player on the field today. If you've watched a lot of him, you've seen a lot of those diving catches that he makes, and those, amazing catches that he can make, the contested catches. All of that was there today. He made an amazing diving catch. Dalton threw a dime. It was in between two defenders, and it was on the right sidelines, and Robinson reached out and dove for it. Got it. So he's amazing. I've always loved watching him. He's so electric for this offense, even though the offense itself hasn't been really electric. Damiere Byrd was taking punt returns alongside Mooney today. So they were doing that in practice. Damiere Byrd had some good catches. Mooney, he broke Jalen's ankles today and went deep, and Dalton overthrew him, unfortunately. Something that we're kind of used to seeing at this point. Hopefully they can get that down, because Mooney, he was on the left sideline and kind of did almost like a double move and went right past Jalen. And thankfully Jalen's okay, because he kind of messed up his knee, it looked like, on that play. So thankfully he's okay, but Mooney looks like himself. I think he's got a potential to be a really, really great receiver for a long time. He's got all of those traits that you want in a receiver. Marquise Goodwin is really fast. He's exactly what they labeled him as. He's awesome. He made a great contested catch along the sidelines. I can't remember who it was over. But he's awesome. Hopefully he can be that guy for us, because we need that wide receiver 3 position there. That'd be huge for us if he could be great. But yeah, Byrd is good. He's fast as well. The problem I saw today, which was definitely the low light of the receivers today, was Ridley dropping about 3 balls, I think I counted. So that's something to monitor, something that's not good. You don't want to hear about that. Hopefully he can kind of pick it up here, because I really want to see him on the roster. I love Ridley. I liked him since we picked him back in, 2019. So hopefully he can do a little bit better, because I don't want to see him go. But yeah, he did not look that great in practice today. So
yeah, cause of concern for, I would say, Ridley. And what I've seen is he had a really good catch. Again, we'll dive into this when we talk about Justin, but he had a really good catch with Justin Fields. He had a really good catch during a warm-up. He had a really good catch against someone on 7 or 11 on 11. And then he had a few missed catches, which is something that you definitely want to see him improve upon. And my prediction is that Ridley can improve upon those catches a little bit and come down with those catches. He will make the team. People don't know. People don't know that Justin Fields, his first touchdown was to Riley Ridley when he was at Georgia. So, Riley Ridley definitely has to improve upon and definitely be that player, because him and Justin, we could see some sets on where Riley Ridley comes in at that number 3 position. And, if there are injuries, Riley Ridley might be that guy. So we need him to kind of step it up a little bit and come down with his catches. And I'm sure he knows it as much as we do. And, I fully believe that he will bounce back. And if he doesn't, well, there's a ton of other receivers who need a shot that we can possibly sign. So, we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and before we move on, I want to kind of ask you about this. I didn't really see a lot of people talking about this, but I think that, with that missed catch with Mooney, that's the second missed catch that we had. And I'm not blaming this on Mooney at all, but I think it's going to take some time for that quarterback like Andy Dalton to play with that guy like Mooney, because Mooney is fast. So maybe that speed, of how Mooney's taking off and that ball is a little bit late or something. So, we'll definitely have to see, because playing with the fast receiver, it's good, but it takes a lot of work to get on the same page. So hopefully Andy Dalton and Darnell Mooney can work together on that. And from what I've seen, they have been training together. So that's really good. They're improving upon that chemistry a little bit.
Yeah, Mooney is so elusive, and he's got great footwork. And that's kind of the problem, is when he breaks out, it's hard for a quarterback to read where he's going to be. So they're a step ahead a little bit. That's why they overthrow him. They're trying to predict that he's going to be able to reach out and get there, or he's going to be taken off right out of the break, but he can't do that. So they've got to, they got to get that. It's definitely a chemistry thing. You just have to, through the repetitions, you have to understand how they are once they break out of a route. And so, yeah, that's just something that comes with time. Hopefully they can get that down before the start of the season. I think the good thing about Fields is that he's so accurate, and Dalton is too as well. But Dalton's definitely more of he can get out really quick on time. He's obviously that veteran. He's got a high football IQ. And so Fields is awesome. And, you know, I think one of his problems is he kind of holds on to the ball a little bit too long sometimes, but he's extremely accurate. So when he gets that ball out, it's probably going to be on the money every time. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's the thing is they just got to get the chemistry going, and hopefully we see a lot of you know, great plays by Mooney this season.
Yeah, since you alluded to it, let's kind of dive right into what we've all been wanting to talk about, and that's Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. So we'll start off with Dalton, then we'll go to Justin. What did you see from Dalton, the good and the bad? And from what I've seen, based on these two practices, the closed one yesterday, the open one today, it seems like Dalton is a little bit ahead of Justin.
Yeah. So just starting out with between those two, I would say Dalton has the edge right now in terms of the I wouldn't say competition, because technically there is no competition right now, because Andy Dalton will be number one starting week one. But, you know, Dalton has the edge on him right now in practice. But that should be expected with a veteran QB versus a rookie QB. He's got a lot of seasons on him. You know, and he's also playing with the number ones versus Justin's playing with the number twos. So that's another thing to monitor, is that Fields doesn't also have the weapons that, say, Dalton may have. But yeah, no, so Dalton, he had a pretty, I would say he had a pretty decent day. He had some bad throws, but he overall wasn't very bad. He had a pretty decent day. So obviously he overthrew Mooney. He missed a couple of throws. There was one throw to Komet that he was a little bit ahead of. It was just a little bit, he was just a step ahead, but he did have some very accurate balls, some great balls, like to Marquise Goodwin. He threw up a very nice one for him. And it was like a 30-yard shot or something that Marquise took to the end zone. So that's something that was really great to see. Fields was a little bit shaky. He started out very hot. He was sharp. He looked like he was very fast. He looked confident. And then as the day kind of progressed, he was missing a little bit of throws, wasn't putting in the perfect pocket for the receivers. You know, he was just a little bit high sometimes, or it was just a little bit ahead of them. But, you know, I think we could expect that. You know, he was kicking himself every time. He's a very fierce competitor, so he wants to be perfect or close to it. So I think we'll see a lot of that getting better with him throughout the training camp. But yeah, it was great to see those two, and Foles didn't look terrible either. He's just a little bit slow, so I noticed that the pass rush was getting to him very quickly, which was not the same thing to say for the other two. But yeah, that's what I saw from him today.
Yeah, and I think with Justin, it's that, you know, those struggles, you know, people are a little bit concerned, including myself, you know, but that's just a rookie quarterback. I mean, I try to look like on Twitter, like, hey, what is Trey Lance struggling with? What is Trevor Lawrence struggling with? And I think like it's not really out there a lot, because all these teams, they kind of don't really give out the news about their rookie quarterback, like a whole lot of news on their rookie quarterback. So, you know, I'm sure those two quarterbacks are struggling. I'm sure Mac Jones is struggling right now. And, you know, every quarterback is going to struggle at some point in their lives. And, you know, as long as with Justin, this is not a constant issue. This is just a rookie mini camp or rookie training camp issue. Sorry, I'm totally fine with it. And, you know, it's just rookie mistakes. I fully expect Justin to bounce back. But I want to ask you this question. I don't know what press conferences was asked, but someone asked just, hey, when you make a mistake, you repeat it, something along those lines. And Justin was like, no, if I make a mistake, that really does not happen again. So did you kind of see that in camp? Like if he threw a pass maybe a little bit low, did he go and try and fix that after he made that mistake? And then I know there was a botched snap, and did he go back and fix that botched snap, you know? And then for the high passes, if he threw something a little bit high, did he go back and try to fix that?
Yeah, so like I was saying, he's so competitive. He was like kind of kicking himself if he made a mistake. So I do remember the snap. It was fumbled and bobbled. And right after that, he just went straight up to the line, you know, said like, all right, we got this, and, you know, took it and handed it off. And one thing that I noticed is that his handoffs are really good. He's got like a perfect placement for the running backs. He's got that down. which is something really good to see because that's very underrated. When you hand off to a back, you have to put it in a great spot for them to be able to grab it and make a move. So that's something that I noticed from him. He's got a tight snap, tight hold, which is very good to see. But yes, he definitely corrected those throws. I noticed throughout the time, if he made a high pass, he'd kind of, clap and be like upset with that, and then get to it next snap and throw a good ball. So it's good to see that he's, he knows what he does wrong. He's got to stick with it and not think about it too much. Just get to the next snap and go. So it's something great that I saw from him, definitely. Same thing from Dalton. I really do think Dalton's a great mentor for Justin, because while Fields is obviously a dual threat quarterback, Dalton's got that. He knows, a lot about being a leader, knows a lot about running an offense, and so he understands that you can't tread on one mistake and you have to keep going. And so that was something great that I saw from both of those guys today.
Yeah, I'm not too worried at all. And I'm sure, I think it was you who tweeted it maybe, but after that overthrow or after that underthrow with Mack, Dalton kind of kicked himself and was like, hey, I got to prove up on this, So it seems like Dalton and Fields, they have that same mentality, that next play mentality. So, I'm not too worried about that, especially, I know this is going on a little bit, not a little bit of a tangent, but a little bit of a bold prediction, but it does seem to me, considering where we were last year with Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky and where we are this year, this quarterback room does seem a whole lot better than we've had even last year and in years past. I'm really confident and going into this season, Dalton can be that guy until Justin Fields is ready, and that's what you want. And I know we hated it at the time of Dalton signing here, but it's looking to be a really underrated signing and a really smart signing by Matt Mackey and Ryan Pace.
Yeah, and it is just training camp, so I think people jump and latch onto a lot of things that they see, whether that's the good or the bad. You just have to keep in mind it's practice, and so people are going through the motions. It's just trying to get back to that form. We've got an extra regular season game this season, so they're practicing hard, but they're trying not to push their limits. But from what I saw today, I wasn't too upset about with anything really, other than something to watch. I think the most concerning thing was the Ridley drops. I think he's a great receiver and he's a great kid, and I think he'll work hard towards it. He's been with us for a while now, and he hasn't really seen a huge increased role since then. And hopefully we see that this season. I'd love to see him step in. If Marquise Goodwin isn't that wide receiver 3 or Demir Bird, then I do want to see Ridley take over that spot. We'll see what happens with Wims as well. But, I think that's the most concerning thing, and that's not something to be dwelling on either, because I think, another training camp, another practice tomorrow, he could even, look very good. He could not drop a ball the whole practice. So, people just going through the motions, and it's good to see some of those guys back that we were worried about, like Goldman, Quinn, who was hurt, and hopefully Akeem Hicks soon, excuse me.
Yeah. Another position that I'm kind of worried about is that offensive line. It seemed to me that Justin Fields and Andy Dalton missing their left tackle and their right tackle. Left tackle in Kev, and then right tackle in Jermaine Afadi. It did seem to hurt the offensive line a little bit, and that's a little bit concerning. So, what did you see from the offensive line, other than the concerning parts?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's kind of like that thing. It's like, should you be happy that Mack and Quinn are getting through the line that quickly, or should you be upset at the O-line? Because obviously they need to do a better job. I did see Larry Borum today. He was the 5th round pick for us. And so hopefully we see, was he 5th? I can't remember, 208 or something pick for us. But yeah, I saw him today. But definitely a lot of fillers. Hopefully that line, I saw Fetty out there as well today, but he wasn't Jackson, obviously. So hopefully they get back to healthy, because that was one of our struggles for a majority of last season, was we were switching a lot of people out. Whitehair got hurt at one point. I did see James Daniels, so that was really good to see. I love that guy. I think he's, very important to this offensive line. So hopefully with all these guys back and everything looking good, we can get it underway and get those protection for those guys. Because I did notice, Fields got sacked today, which they don't actually tackle him, but he got downed in the backfield. So that's something of concern. And then obviously Robert Quinn came through and he stopped. They're being careful. They don't want to run into each other. And I noticed that Foles was kind of folding a little bit under that pressure too. So that offensive line is going to have to step up, and we need those injuries to be decreased this year, because that also helped out David Montgomery later on in the season when everybody was healthy. Not everybody, but when we were healthier at offensive line. Because I do want to see David Montgomery have his breakout year. I want to see him be a definite top 10 running back in the league for sure. So.
Yeah, and what did you see from the running backs in terms of David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert? What did you see from them? And also, while we're at it, what did you really see from Tariq Cohen? I know they said like he was kind of walking gingerly. I'm not too sure what that means, but what did you see from Monty, Herbert, and then Cohen?
Yeah, first thing I noticed right away is Montgomery looks really quick, which I know is something that he's been working on a lot recently. So he looks fast, and he's, obviously still him. He's having fun in practice. He's a really fun guy to be around, obviously. But he was breaking through the line, hitting the holes hard, catching good balls. He didn't really have any mistakes today, which is good. I did note Artavis Pierce had a couple of mistakes today. Khalil Herbert looked very good. He looks very quick and elusive. And then in terms of Cohen, he was just kind of walking a little awkwardly because he's placed on the physically unable to play list. And they can activate him at any time, but right now he's hurt. So he's been walking a little bit. He's still recovering from that ACL tear last season. But he looked good. It was good to see him out there at least, especially with the things that have occurred in his life the past few months during the offseason. Hopefully he's doing better with that. But it was great to see him out there today, and they all look good, to be honest. I think the only mistakes I caught were from Artavis today. But that's about it. So I'm excited to see the backfield this year. It'll be interesting.
Awesome. And then just to quickly dive into a little bit of the injuries, and what did you see anything from Daz Newsome at all?
No, he was not there. I don't think he was there. I could be wrong. I'd have to double check. But I'm not sure. No, I don't think he was there today. In terms of the only other injuries I saw, Eddie Jackson was there, obviously. Betty was there. Tariq was there. Trying to think. The only injury I saw on the field during the day was Jalen Johnson, who went down for a little bit, but he's okay. He wasn't hurt in any way. He got stretched out and went right back into play pretty much right after. So, but other than that, I believe that's all I saw that weren't dressed to play today with helmets on. So that's good. We don't look too hurt. Hopefully that continues throughout training camp. I don't want to see anybody go down, because I was pretty freaked out when Jalen went down, because that would not be good for us if we lost him. So hopefully they can stay healthy during the rest of this training camp. That's very important. So.
Yeah. And I know I tweeted at you and asked you like, hey, what about Tev? And you said, from my understanding based on our conversation, you didn't really seem like Tev was on the field, but you did see him around the weight room. Are you concerned at all about Tevin Jenkins? Because, we did that kind of second round, and this guy has a lot of potential, and we all want to see him play. He had first round talent, and, he's one of the most hyped up guys after Justin Fields. So you concerned at all about Tev?
Yeah, so Tevin Jenkins was near, if you've ever seen House Hall, they have a weight room that's like right under the big sign that says Chicago Bears. So the weight room, he was standing next to it with the other linemen. I didn't see him at the field, I don't believe, or on the sidelines. So I think I saw him over there, and then he kind of left and did something. But he has some sort of back injury right now, but it's not severe. Nagy said not to worry about it. So hopefully, that's not something to be concerned with. Same thing with Eddie Jackson as well, as what he said. And in terms of the other people, or another person is, I know Cohen, they said, is not as concerning as people think, even though they put him on the PUP list. So yeah, hopefully Tevin's going to be good. It didn't sound severe. I think it was just resting. He needed some rest. But yeah, he's definitely got potential to have an awesome year this year, and I want to see him out there because he's a dog. So that would be really cool to see him. I want to see him in practice as well, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, last question, I guess, not about training camp, but when do you envision Justin Fields starting? For me, I think it's week 4, but what about you?
Okay, so this is the other thing that I wanted to say with Dalton is it's not a bad thing that he's outperforming Justin right now, because the other thing is you want to have Fields sit behind him for as long as he can, right? So as long as Dalton's performing at least decent and we're winning football games, that's all that matters. And I don't want Fields to be thrown into the fire too early. So I'm thinking, we're going to have to see how the rest of training camp goes and what he looks like. But as of right now, I think Dalton's got a potential to play pretty decent. So, a lot of people don't even think by week 5, week 6 or whatever that he would be benched. So, I think I'm going to say like around midseason, like maybe week 8 or something, we can see Fields. We've got a really tough schedule, and we'll have to see how Nagy plays it out, because truly we don't know how he's going to play. He wants to do it the same way that he did it with Mahomes in Kansas City. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I'm thinking around midseason is more realistic. I don't think they're going to give up on Dalton right away, because we're playing the Rams first. And that's, if not the best, passing defense in the league. So, yeah, we'll have to see how Nagy plays it out here. But I'm thinking midseason. That's my prediction.
Yeah. I mean, I think people like me and you, everyone wants to see Justin Fields start as soon as possible. And, we just don't realize that Dalton he's a talented quarterback, and there's nothing wrong with letting Dalton start as much as he can until Justin Fields is ready. We don't want to rush the process like we did with Mitch in 2017. And that kind of really hindered. That's kind of where the problem started for Mitch. So whenever Fields is ready, I think he should start. And, we'll just have to see where that goes. But thank you so much for coming on, Zacch. It was an honor to be talking to you. It was an honor. I know our conversation was pretty long, but thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else that you want to say to my audience here?
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you, Advait, for having me on here. It's always fun to talk Chicago Bears football. So, glad we could connect and hop on a call and talk about it. So thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, again, don't forget to subscribe. If you like the Chicago Bears content, leave a big like. And without all being said, everyone, peace out and bear down.